Hi grade 11s, this is JP. I'm going to take you through the solutions to exercise 1. So you need to tell me in which quadrant are those angles are in, so that's not too bad. The first question, 223, so it's greater than 180, but it is less than 270, so therefore that would be in quadrant 3. Question 1.3, I'm just going to do the left-hand side column first. 292 is greater than 270, but is smaller than 360. So that would be in quadrant 4. Minus 400, okay, so what happens here for minus 400 in 1.5? We need to go, well, minus 360, you're there again. And then if you minus another 90, that is equal to minus 450, so it's not that, so it's minus 90, minus 180, minus 270, minus 360, so it's somewhere there again, okay, so another 40 degrees, so that would be in quadrant 4. Then we've got minus 182, where is that? So minus 90, minus 180, then minus 182, so that will be in the second quadrant, so quadrant 2. And positive 520, where would you find that? So we're going to go anti-clockwise, 90, 180, 270, 360, so that's then 450 again, and so then it's a little bit more, so it's another 70 more, so that will be in quadrant 2. Okay, or you can just go 520 minus 360 is equal to, and then that is in quadrant 2. Okay, next let's look at the right hand side column. So the first one there, 153, that's 90, that's 180, so 153 is between 90 and 180, so that will be in quadrant 2. 1.4 there, minus 130, so what we're going to do, that's minus 90, clockwise direction, that's minus 180, so it's somewhere there between minus 90 and minus 180, so that would be in quadrant 3. Minus 51, that is here, right? It's not quite minus 90, so it's there, so it's in quadrant 4. And then 225 is equal to, that's 90, 180, 270, 225 would be here somewhere. So that is in quadrant 3. And lastly, 730. Well, if we just keep on minusing 360 and minus 360, so minus all those revolutions, you're going to get 10 degrees, right? And where's 10 degrees, that's going to be in quadrant 1. Okay, in question 2, you first need to locate the angle, then just check whether the trig function will have a positive or negative ratio. So let's look at the first one. Cos 115, where would you locate the angle 115? 115 would be in the second quadrant. Which function will have a positive ratio there? Sine. So that would mean that cos will have a negative ratio. So the ratio of cos will be negative. Next one, cos minus 40, minus 140 degrees is in the fourth quadrant, okay, which is 40 degrees in the clockwise direction. So who's positive in the fourth quadrant? Hey, cos, baby. So that would mean it will have a positive ratio. The ratio will be positive. Next one, tan minus 170. Minus 170 is going to be here, right? So that's in the third quadrant. Who's positive in the third quadrant? Tan, baby. So that would mean that ratio would be positive. Next one, 330 degrees. 330 degrees is going to be in the last quadrant, in the fourth quadrant. Is cos positive in the last quadrant? Yes, so that will have a positive ratio. Sine 300 will be located in the last quadrant, right, between minus 270 and 360 degrees. So therefore, sine will be negative there because cos is positive. Okay, so let's look at question 2, that right-hand side column, so 2.2 to 2.10. The first one there, we've got tan of 150. 150 is greater than 90 but smaller than 180, so it's in the second quadrant. Only sine's ratio will be positive there, so that ratio would be negative. Sine minus 30. Minus 30 is in the last quadrant. Who's positive in the last quadrant? Cos is positive, therefore sine will have a negative ratio. Sine of 200. 200 is, so that's 90, 180. 200 is in the third quadrant. Will sine be positive or negative in the third quadrant? It will be negative because tan is positive there. Tan will have a positive ratio. Tan of 190. 190 is 180 plus by 10. That again is in the third quadrant. Will tan be positive or negative there? Tan will be positive. It's positive in the third quadrant. Lastly, cos of minus 60. Minus 60 is in the last quadrant. Will cos be positive in the last quadrant? Yes. So that is, it will have a positive ratio. Alright, question 3 is asking you in which quadrant theta would lie, that reference angle would be. Okay, so let's go through it, and then there's two conditions. So the first one is sine, in question 3.1, sine theta is positive. Okay, so where would we find sine theta that is positive? Sine theta would be positive in the first quadrant and in the second quadrant, right? And then where would cos theta be negative? So that is sine theta positive. Where is cos theta negative? Cos theta would be negative, well, in the second quadrant because sine is positive there, and in the third quadrant because tan is positive there. So cos would be negative in quadrant 2 and 3, right? It's cos is positive in quadrant 1 and 4. So in which ones do you have a purple and a pink dot? Okay, because that would mean where is cos positive and where is sine positive and where is cos negative, and that would be in quadrant 2. Right, so that would be quadrant 2. There's two of those. Both colors are there. Okay. Question 3.2. We're looking at where sine is negative, and we're going to look where cos is positive. First of all, where's sine negative? Sine is positive in the first two quadrants, so sine will be negative in quadrant 3, where tan is positive, and quadrant 4, where cos is positive. And then cos will be positive, right, in quadrant 4, cos is positive in quadrant 4, and it's also positive in quadrant 1. Everyone's positive. Everyone's got a positive ratio in quadrant 1. So in which case is sine negative and cos positive? In other words, where both of those pink and purple colors. So that will be in quadrant 4. Right, quadrant 4, sine, the ratio of sine is negative and the ratio of cos is positive. Next up, we're going to look at where sine 3.3, where sine is positive, the ratio of sine is positive, and the ratio of tan is negative. Sine is positive in quadrant 1. No, that's the wrong color. In quadrant 1, sine is positive, and in quadrant 2, sine is positive, right? And where's tan negative? Tan is negative in quadrant 2 and in quadrant 4, right? Because tan is positive in quadrant 1 and 3. So we are both of those. Where's sine positive and where's tan negative? So that would be quadrant 2. Right, so that would be quadrant 2. Let's look at the last three questions now. Okay, so 3.4. Cos theta is positive, and so cos theta is positive and tan theta is also positive. So where's the ratio of cos positive? So that will be quadrant 1 and 4. And where's the ratio of tan positive? That will be in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. So where are they both positive in? Of course, only in quadrant 1. 3.5. Question 3.5. Where's cos positive and tan negative? Cos is positive, of course, in quadrant 1 and 4, and tan's ratio is negative in quadrant 2 and 4. So where's cos positive but tan negative? That would be, of course, quadrant 4. Lastly, where's sine negative, the ratio of sine negative and the ratio of tan positive? Sine is negative in quadrant 3 and 4, right? And where's tan positive? Tan is positive in quadrant 1 and 3. Right, so where's tan positive and sine negative? That will be in quadrant 3. Right.